Okay, here we go. Insight into Iceland for day 9 of the 2021 Mid-Season Invitational, the third day of the Rumble stage. So let's kick things off. We'll first recap the 6 games we had today and then talk about a couple of the kind of broader takeaways. So the first game, Cloud9 against Pentanet. Cloud9 pick up their first win of this stage so far. They were controlling the early pathing. You can see in the last few games they've made much more specific plans and been much more intentional about how they're going to path and specifically to set up control of scuttle crabs. Pentanet managed to punish a little bit as Perks kind of stepped too far forward in his lane control to try to secure that crab control, and some CC landed from the Syndra and the Morgana, and Pentanet picked off Perks of First Blood, but from there, things were pretty much Cloud9 favored. They farmed it up much better. They stacked some Drakes. There was a bot skirmish that was pretty close, but they managed to kind of swing it back. They got the first Rift Herald. They broke a mid-outer. Some picks in the top lane led to a 20-minute Baron, and they closed it out from there. So, not the most dominant win over Pentanet that anyone's had, but, I mean, you don't have to ask for too much. Cloud9 just got a win, got on the board. Game 2. Royal never give up against PSG Talon. So RNG came in with a Gnar, Rumble, Victor, Kaisa, Leona composition. PSG responded with Lee Sin, Morgana, Zoe, Tristana, Nautilus. And it started with some early control from PSG. So they got a double crab. They won some skirmishes in the bot and mid lane, and they jumped into an early lead. And this was, something that not that many people have been able to get big early leads against RNG. It has happened, but PSG got that big advantage. Then there's just a lot of fighting in this game, or rather PSG winning fights and getting incremental advantages, stacking dragons, which again has been such a theme at this tournament. Teams, one team very specifically stacking dragons a lot of the time, and that leading to victory. RNG were hanging in there and kind of not letting it completely go away from them. They had some good team fighting tools. They might have had an opportunity. But then Cryin got exposed, standing in kind of a poor part of the jungle without his team nearby. He got picked off. PSG down, found that kill that led to a Baron that led in sequence into an Infernal Soul. So PSG Talon kind of controlled this game. I thought a big part of those early skirmishes that they won, bot and mid lane, that set them up for their lead had a lot to do with Cryin being too, I described it on Twitter as laning with glue on his feet. He could have helped contest the first crab, but he was stepping up in lane and trying to put pressure on instead, when he should have been stepping down into the river and helping Wei, who had been paced a little bit slower, but still should have been able to fight for that crab if Cryin had helped. In the mid lane skirmish that I mentioned was a 3v3, and Cryin was the last person to join it, and PSG were able to win it early. And then Cryin gave up that pick. So, he definitely didn't have a great game. Needs to be much more aware of what's going on in the map around his lane, especially very early on. And we're going to need to see if he can clean that up. But huge win for PSG. And, of course, that put pressure on Cloud9 because we had kind of figured coming in Cloud9 and PSG would be contesting for that 4th spot. But now PSG get an upset win, and Cloud9 are under the gun. Game 3 rolls around. Damwon Kia against Mad Lions. Elyoya stepped up with a gank in the mid lane for First Blood at level 3, so he cleared a full quadrant and then ganked mid instead of wrapping into the bottom quadrant. The cost for that was that Canyon was just doing a standard full clear, and he ended up getting double crab from that. Damwon were controlling the bottom lane, and Ghost and Barrel were really going aggressive in this lane matchup, picked up some kills. Mad Lions continued to work through the bottom side of the map. They got first dragon, but Damwon traded that for the first herald, the first turret top. It's a pretty classic trade that we often end up seeing, especially if you have a winning high priority top lane matchup. And Damwon were playing the Lee Sin top into Mad Lions pulling out a Shen, which I think is the first for the whole tournament. It was still a pretty close game, but there was a dragon fight that was really closely contested. Damwon managed to come out with control of the zone. And we're kind of in control of the game and of the macro of the game especially. Mad Lions were playing well with that macro. They were kind of finding ways to trade, finding ways to minimize the snowball and keep the gold lead kind of steady, but Damwon were well in control. Finally, they managed to catch Karzi out. They got a pick, they got a Baron, and that was what kind of broke the back of the Mad Lions for that game. So a really closely contested game. I thought it was pretty good on both sides. and not a game that Mad Lions have to feel bad about at all. Just a few things that they could have cleaned up, and maybe not trying quite so hard for that level 3 gank. I think pace in the first clear in the jungle is so important right now. Moving forward from there, RNG played against Pentanet and speed ran them. I don't think we have a whole lot that we need to talk about there, other than saying Cryin got a solo kill on Chaz, which is, I guess, payback for back in the group stage, but quick game. Game 5, Cloud9 against Damwon. So this is one where Cloud9 had a chance to kind of match PSG's upset with one of their own and kind of be back on track. Damwon allowed Cloud9 to have the Renekton, and also the Morgana, and Damwon opted for a comp of Gangplank, Udyr, Victor, Kai'Sa, Nautilus. So a really good comp at controlling space, setting up on a dragon or a herald or wherever it is, and inviting you to come in and engage on them. But Cloud9 had a lot of great engage tools, and Renekton has been Fudge's best champion. Definitely at this tournament and probably all season long. So, the C9 had some tools to work with here. Damwon got out to some early control. They picked up first blood. They picked up the first dragon, so they were off to the races a bit. But Blabber started finding some really good ganks in the Morgana, especially ganking to the top side with Fudge setting it up with the Renekton. They used those ganks to get the first herald. Damwon were hitting back. They found some picks. They kept working on the dragons. C9 were starting to get under pressure that maybe they wouldn't have enough to attack this Damwon lead. But finally, they did find a pick on Ghost, who had overstayed after some action in the bottom lane. They picked him off. They got a dragon. They bought themselves some time. So we thought, okay, maybe they're still in this. It came down to some more kind of posturing and rotational play and so on. Damwon managed to pick up the Dragon Soul because of the stacking they've been doing, all the macro control they'd had before. But Cloud9 did not roll over, and I think that's one thing that is been a really big credit to Cloud9 all year is they don't roll over. They keep looking for plays. And they found some picks. Vulcan especially leading some plays to get a couple of kills. They found a couple around a Baron that didn't quite convert into a Baron of their own. And then Damwon tried to force a Baron themselves. They managed to secure it, but Cloud9 punished with 4 kills. And you thought, okay, maybe they're back in it. It came down to a fight for the Elder Dragon. And scroll through some Twitter timelines, there's been a lot of discussion about what exactly happened. But Blabber managed to get the smite. He secured the smite on it. Sven got caught by a Gangplank ultimate into a barrel chain that probably should have been avoidable. Perks didn't manage to get anything done with his Orianna ult or really any of his Orianna skills. And Cloud9 got aced at that Elder fight despite Blabber securing it. And it really was that close. If Cloud9 managed to go even in that fight or, get the first kill of the fight even rather than Sven dying, as I'm pretty sure the first death of the fight, that could have been a Cloud9 win. And this game was really close. And I think that's what feels so bad about Cloud9's not only loss today, but it has happened in a lot of their losses is, whether it's an individual mistake very early in the game that kind of makes it feel like just a lost game from the start, or a mounting comeback and making some positive plays and bringing things back, and then one thing doesn't quite go their way and it's over because they put themselves in a deficit position to start with. So that's basically what happened this game. It really hurts, but on the positive side, C9 had a lot of great plays. Vulcan especially, huge standout. Blabber did some good things. Fudge played really well, but we need to see them bring it all together. And the final game of the day, PSG Talon took on the Mad Lions. And so these are a couple of teams that are, definitely both in the top 4 right now and contesting to be kind of maybe even among the second, one of them might be the second best team in the tournament so far. PSG went for a late level 1 invade onto the bottom jungle quadrant of the Mad Lions at their blue buff. They jumped in and flashed onto Elyoya, picked him off. Karzi managed to try to kill back, but with Elyoya having to respawn, now PSG had complete control of the jungle. River pathed really well with that advantage. He even pathed around after clearing out Mad Lion's bot side quadrant. He pathed around to the top and invaded. So all Elyoya got to do was clear his own red buff, start Krugs, and get pushed off it. And he was just in a massive, massive hole from the start. And PSG rolled it through from there. They attacked the bot lane really hard. River ganked over and over with the huge pace he had on that Udyr. And it was just pretty much very, very early in the game. It was just an insurmountable lead that Mad Lions couldn't come back from. So they got a little bit of the Cloud9 treatment with, something in the first 3 levels of the game that kind of decided it from there on out. They're going to not feel good about that one, but I don't think they have to take too much home from that one and, just say, hey, next time, let's maybe try to get the little one ourselves or manage that a little better. But, bit of a throwaway game, but great for PSG Talon. So that, getting into the takeaways on the day, I think PSG Talon obviously celebrating their success today is a big one. Huge day for them, destroying Mad Lions, upsetting RNG. I think Kaiwing was the main hero for me, and he's been great for them all tournament long. His Nautilus game against RNG was really decisive with all the hooks he was landing. He laned really well and played 2v2s and was roaming around the map on the Leona against Mad Lions. Been playing very well, and I think a lot of people have been calling him out. He plays all these engage melee supports, Nautilus, Leona, Alistar. He also plays Thresh, another hook champion. Big playmaker, has been doing great things. And I also want to shout out Maple, who has been playing all kinds of different styles. He's played a Galio game, he's been playing Zoe, he's been playing Akali, all different kinds of things that he can bring out. And has had just huge score lines lately, been really showing up well. I think I submitted a question for the media scrum asking him how he felt he was performing compared to the past when he's been on these really successful Flash Wolves teams, several years ago. And, he didn't want to hype himself up too much. He felt like he was in good form and said he has really good synergy with his teammates. But, I can hype him up a little harder than he will for himself. I think he's been great. I think he's been, one of the better mids at the tournament. It's hard to be the best mid at the tournament when you're up against Showmaker, even with the mistakes Showmaker's been making. But he's been really good. Maple and Kaiwing and the whole PSG Talon team I've been enjoying watching them, and I definitely like scouting them a little bit coming into the tournament. I had a bit of a good feeling about them. I was still hopeful that Cloud9 could be better than them and take that 4th spot, but PSG are proving that even with the general positive vibes I have of them, I was really underrating them. So let's see what they can do in the rest of the tournament and in the best of 5s, of course. And on the RNG front, I've already spoken a little bit, but really, really disappointed with Cryin showing today and at the tournament in general. I think, I've called out already the lack of use of his mid priority on the Victor in the loss to PSG. He, got picked off in different scenarios, just hasn't been positioning well. I think he's got a lot to do. He's still a relatively inexperienced player compared to some of the people we have here. And I'm not saying he's a write-off or anything like that, but if RNG want to win this tournament, they're going to need Cryin to step up his level, because having a weak point in your team is, I think League of Legends as a team game, you're only as strong as your weakest player. And right now Cryin is holding the back a little bit, unfortunately to say. So maybe they need to get him a little more comfortable. Maybe they need to identify the ways that he's being attacked and the ways that he's, getting caught out in some of these things. I'm sure they can figure it out, and I'm sure they're going to still be good at this tournament. But, tomorrow is the best time for him to start kind of telling a better story about his play here. So those are the takeaways. Day 9. Let's see whether things will shift up some more, because I think the landscape of the tournament was shaken up a bit today, and maybe that'll happen again tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe we'll see some unexpected things. But in general, I think Damwon acquitted themselves a little better. PSG looked great. RNG a little shaky. And I think that's setting up for a really exciting knockout stage. So stay tuned until tomorrow, and we'll see what happens in the next day.